Steam has just dropped another batch of good games that are on a massive discount, and seeing these discounts is kind of a steal. If you're looking for a good game to play without emptying your pocket, then this video is perfect for you. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Starting off this list, we have Cuphead. Okay, so you've seen the art style, you know the whole 1930s rubber hose cartoon thing, but let me tell you what nobody talks about enough. This game is almost frustratingly beautiful. The hand-drawn animation is literally on another level. Every boss has like 15 distinct phases, and the soundtrack is all live jazz recordings that make you feel like you're in some underground speakeasy getting absolutely destroyed by a giant frog with a top hat. And look, it's 40% off right now, $11.99 on Steam. $11.99 for a game that took a small team like 6 years to animate by hand. That's ridiculous. The gameplay is tight, the difficulty is punishing but fair, and yeah, you're gonna die like 100 times on one boss, but every time you come back you've actually learned something. The DLC, Delicious Last Course, is also amazing if you want even more. Some people say it's too hard, and I mean, they're not wrong, but that's literally the whole point. It's a boss rush shooter that respects your time because every attempt is just you getting better. For under $12, it's almost embarrassing not to own it. Moving on, we have Resident Evil 2, 80% off. Let that sink in for a second. $7.99. That is cheaper than a movie ticket, and you will spend way more than 2 hours being terrified in a police station, where literally every hallway has a window you forgot was broken. This remake is easily one of the best ever made, full stop. The third-person perspective is handled incredibly well, the weapons feel heavy and impactful, and Mr. X stomping around after you is genuinely one of the most stressful things in any video game ever. You've got 2 campaigns, Leon and Claire, and they're different enough that you'll want to play both. The map design in the police station is so tight and clever. Every key you find opens like 3 different things, and you're constantly recontextualizing the same spaces. Some purists will tell you the original did a few things better, and okay, fine, but for $8, you are not going to find a survival horror experience this polished anywhere else at this price. If you've been sleeping on Resident Evil because you thought it was just tank controls and cheesy voice acting, this one will change your mind. And up next, let's talk about Monster Hunter Rise, 80% off. That is the same price as a sandwich at a place that probably doesn't even toast the bread properly. This game is snappier and faster than older Monster Hunter games, which some veterans weren't sure about, but honestly, it works. The wire bug mechanic adds this whole verticality thing where you can zip up walls and launch yourself at monsters like a human missile. And you've got a palamute you can ride around the maps at high speed. It just moves. The old Monster Hunter games sometimes felt like you spent more time jogging than fighting, but here you get to the action fast and the action is excellent. The Switch version runs great, but the PC port had some performance issues early on that seem to have improved with updates. $8. $8 for a game that sold over 8 million copies and has an expansion, Sunbreak, that players absolutely love. I've put like 60 hours into this, and I'm still not bored of smashing a longsword into a Rathalos's face. If you've ever been curious about Monster Hunter but got intimidated by the time commitment, this is your entry point. For $8, you have nothing to lose. So next up we have Path of Exile 2. Okay, so this one's still in early access, fair warning, but 50% off at $14.99 is a pretty good deal for a game that's probably going to eat your life for the next few years. The big difference between this and the first game is the pace. Path of Exile 1 was about exploding entire screens of enemies in 2 seconds. But Path of Exile 2 slows things way down. Enemies are tougher, bosses hit harder, and you actually have to think about what you're doing instead of just spamming one ability. The combat feels more tactical and weighty. There's a lot of feedback from players right now about missing quality of life features and some rough edges, which, it's early access. But the bones are really good, the visuals are sharp, and the build variety is already massive, even though they're still adding content. Half off for a game that's going to be free to play at full launch anyway, which sounds weird, but here's the thing. You're paying $15 to get in early and support development, and you get some extra stash tabs and stuff. If you like ARPGs, you're going to end up playing this eventually anyway. Might as well get it now while it's half off and learn the systems before everyone else figures out the meta builds. Another one we have here is Brotato. Look, I'm just going to say it, $2.99. That is less than the change in my car's cup holder right now. Brotato is essentially what happens if Vampire Survivors had way more personality and actually meaningful build choices. You play as a potato that can use up to 6 weapons at once, and you survive waves of increasingly angry aliens while collecting experience and items that synergize in genuinely interesting ways. There are like 40 different characters, each with their own unique mechanics, and the game juice is off the charts. Hits feel satisfying, the visuals pop, and the wave-based combat keeps you in this flow state that's hard to break out of. Some players think the recent updates added things they didn't love, and the mobile port has control issues, but on PC with mouse and keyboard, it's extremely smooth. For $3, this is an absolute no-brainer. You will get at least 10 hours out of it before you even start scratching the surface of all the characters and difficulty levels. It's the kind of game where you say, one more run at midnight and suddenly it's 3 in the morning and you've unlocked a potato that only uses wrenches. I'm not kidding, that's in the game. And coming in next we have Spyro Reignited Trilogy, 75% off, $9.99. Let me do the math on that for you. That's basically $3.33 per game. You are getting 3 full PlayStation 1 classics, completely remastered with visuals that look exactly what you imagined in your head when you were a kid playing on a CRT TV. Spyro, 1, 2, and 3, all in one package, all playable back to back. The controls are smooth, the level design is classic late 90s 3D platformer, which means some of it hasn't aged perfectly, but that's part of the charm. You're a little purple dragon who can glide, charge, and breathe fire on things. That's it. That's the whole game, and it's wonderful. Some people complain that the remastered visuals are oversaturated and that a few boss fights are harder to read because of the new effects, but honestly, for $10, who cares? This is 3 games, 3 entire games. That's like a weekend and a half of nostalgic platforming bliss. If you grew up with Spyro, this is a trip back to your childhood. If you didn't, this is a chance to see what all the fuss was about. Either way, $10 is a steal. Now moving on, we have Metro Exodus, 85% off, that is $4.49. I need you to understand what you're getting for $4.50. This is a full-fat AAA first-person survival shooter with some of the most immersive atmosphere in the entire genre. You're traveling across post-apocalyptic Russia on a train called the Aurora, and each chapter is a different open-ish area with its own hazards, its own factions, and its own terrifying things that want to eat your face. The mask mechanic is genuinely stressful. You have to keep wiping the condensation off your gas mask, change filters, and if your mask cracks, you better find a new one fast. The guns are janky in a way that feels real, not broken. The game expects you to sneak around instead of going in guns blazing most of the time, and exploring rewards you with crafting materials and hidden stories. Some players report bugs and performance issues on certain hardware, and the open world sections aren't the most optimized, but for $4, you can deal with a few rough edges. This is one of those games that is so cheap it feels like a pricing error. $4.50, less than a cup of coffee at a place that puts a leaf in the foam. Absolute no-brainer for anyone who likes atmospheric shooters with real tension. Next on the list, it's Ori and the Will of the Wisps, 75% off, $7.49. This game is a masterpiece, and I don't throw that word around lightly. The movement tech in Will of the Wisps is genuinely some of the best in any 2D game ever made. Ori can dash, double jump, bash off enemies, swim, grapple, and by the end of the game, you're basically flying through these gorgeous hand-painted levels like a little white-haired ghost ninja. The combat is way better than the first game, with actual weapons and abilities that let you play differently depending on your style. The music is magical, the art is breathtaking, and the story will make you cry. I'm serious, I played it twice and cried both times. It's an emotional roller coaster about light and family and sacrifice, and it hits you right in the gut. Some people say it borrows a little too much from Hollow Knight, but honestly, if you're going to borrow from something, borrow from the best. For $7.49, you are getting one of the best Metroidvanias of the last decade. The first game, Blind Forest, is also great, but Will of the Wisps improves on it in every single way. Just buy it. And up next, let's talk about Minecraft Dungeons. 75% off, $9.99. Look, I know what you're thinking. Minecraft Diablo? That sounds like a cash grab, but it's actually a really charming, accessible dungeon crawler that respects your time in a way that bigger ARPGs often don't. You pick a mission, you jump in, you smash some skeletons, you grab a chest with a cool new sword, and you're done in 15 minutes. No complicated skill trees, no respecting anxiety, no reading 20 paragraphs of lore to understand why you're fighting a giant spider. The gear system is simple: melee, ranged, armor, 3 artifact slots, and the enchantments give you meaningful choices without overwhelming you. The DLCs add a lot of extra content, but the base game alone is plenty for the price. Some players say it gets repetitive after 20 hours and the endgame lacks complexity, but again, $10. You're not paying for a 1,000-hour grind fest. You're paying for a fun weekend with a friend or two in local co-op. The frame drops and bugs are there on certain systems, but nothing game-breaking for most people. If you have kids or you just want something casual to unwind with after work, this is an easy recommendation. And the number one pick on this list is Control Ultimate Edition, 90% off. Let me say that again for the people in the back, 90% off. That makes this game $3.99. $3.99 for the full game plus both expansions. And this is Remedy at their absolute weirdest and best. You play as Jesse Faden, you're in this brutalist skyscraper called the Oldest House, and it just keeps getting bigger the deeper you go. The building is full of paranormal objects, reality-bending puzzles, and documents written by federal agents who have clearly lost their minds. The telekinetic combat is incredible. You can rip chunks of concrete out of the floor and throw them at enemies. You can levitate. You can mind control enemies to fight for you. The service weapon shifts between like 5 different forms, from a standard pistol to a grenade launcher to a charged shot. The ashtray maze is one of the best sequences in any game ever made, and I will not elaborate further. Some players report graphical glitches years after release, but $4. $4 for a game that looks this good, plays this well, and has this much style is honestly insulting to other game developers. If you've never played Control, you have no excuse now. It's on Steam for $4. Go play it.